change, or maybe when submitting a PR with no changes. Comments should always be included on the CDD form describing exactly what the request is for. Another field on the CDD form that is often left blank is the booking entity country, and the OUS RM fields are often left blank. The OUS RM field should be NA if the booking entity country is United States. The NIAC should match the purpose of that entity, and the NIAC description should match the CIF nature of business and the primary focus field on the CDD-001 customer screening form. So basically, your NIAC, nature of business, and primary focus should all match. And disregarded entities is a big topic. If the entity is disregarded and the tax responsible party is not the legal owner, that tax responsible party is often left off and should be listed on the CIF form in the principal section. There's a drop down for position that can be chosen for tax responsible party. And the W-9, one of the consultants noted that sometimes the W-9s are filled out incorrectly when you have the disregarded entity that should be listed in line 2 of that form. Registered address is also another field that we see not filled out completely. That registered address should be listed on the formation documents, and if it's not, that registered address can be found on the Secretary of State website. Wherever that entity was formed, you should be able to find a registered address there. Missing documentation required per the M&B job aid. As we said before, the requirements change all the time, so the job aid should be reviewed each time a request is submitted. We have to pull that guide too, because it does change, and sometimes we're not notified that it's changed. So it's always a best practice to pull that job aid to see what's required for your customer type. FCRA consent forms. Before we can request a credit report on an individual guarantor, we need a fully completed and signed FCRA form, or they need to sign the CIF. That form has to be uploaded to Cornerstone, the consent form, before we can request the credit report to be pulled. And we've seen FCRA forms that are not signed or not fully completed, and all information should be on the form along with the name of the entity. At the very top of that form, the FCRA consent form, there's a box for you to enter the entity's name. A lot of times that's left blank. So it would be like ABC Company, and then I think the form says and or any of its affiliates. So it would cover any affiliates that that entity is related with. CEO and CFO equivalents are still sometimes not listed on the CIF form, and those two titles are always required unless it's a PTC, I think risk rated 1 to 3. I think right now we don't require that anymore. Could change, but as of this minute, I think it's not required. But otherwise, the CEO, CFO equivalents should always be listed. So even if a customer tries to tell you they don't have a CEO or CFO or anyone with that title, someone has to be making the decisions for the company, and someone has to be managing the finances. It could be the same person, but those two titles should always be specified on the customer information form. And then last discrepancy, last bullet point that my coworkers pointed out was sometimes there'll be a discrepancy on the CDD-01 customer screening form and the CIF when it comes to the accounts or loans or both. The CIF may have both loans and DDA, and the customer screening form may just say TM. So if one says both, they should both indicate TM and credit or TM only, whichever the case may be. The next topic on the agenda is adding guarantors. For an existing customer adding a guarantor, what documentation is needed? The CDD form and CIF form really are all that's required when you're adding a new guarantor. The CDD form request would be add change, related party. The CDD form should be fully completed and the comments should clearly state what's changing. So it could be this is an existing customer adding one new guarantor or however many guarantors, and you could even know the names of the new guarantors if you wanted to. The CIF form is also required. It doesn't have to be completed fully. It can just have the name of your account holder and then the guarantors listed. No other documentation is required. We don't need the formation documents or anything like that for the guarantors. If your request is to change key principles, what documentation is needed? It's pretty much the same process as adding a new guarantor. For an existing customer adding principles, we would need the CDD form and the CIF. The CDD form type request should be add change, related party. And the CDD comments should clearly state what is changing. New CEO, new CFO, new ownership, if somebody should be removed from the relationship. With a key principle change, we review the existing beneficial ownership form in Cornerstone. That form should always be reviewed when a key principle is changing. For example, if the former CEO, CFO signed the original form